Godzilla vs. Kong was the culmination of those earlier films of the MonsterVerse. It is the movie where, you guessed it, Godzilla fights King Kong, but then there's also the whole subplot with the Hollow Earth, which is what most of these movies were also leaning into. Now, like the first three movies before it, I remember back in 2021, I marathoned all of them to watch this, and I remember watching Godzilla vs. Kong in the IMAX theater, and I enjoyed every minute of it. This movie gave me exactly what I wanted. At this point, that's when I knew, like, all right, I'm not looking for anything special or objectively good. Just give me what I came here for. Godzilla vs. Kong, and this movie gave me exactly that. But also, thanks to the Monarch TV series, this also puts this movie into more perspectives, like particularly Apex. But before I get into that, let's go back to the Lassiter Factor archives to watch my original review of this movie. Godzilla vs. Kong was one of my most anticipated films of 2021, and did it deliver? Despite the disregard of human life and property damage, which I can get over, but it was excessive in this film, despite some of the human characters being boring, despite the quest with the Hollow Earth that was interesting but served almost no purpose, despite the film taking plot points from other films, I still had a rip-roaring good-ass time watching the film. Godzilla vs. Kong gave me exactly what I wanted, and not to spoil the film, but it presented some ideas that could culminate into other films, which who knows what will become of this universe after this film, especially given the climate of the world. Godzilla is king, but I appreciated that they gave some more time to Kong, because Godzilla had already had 2 movies. Not the deepest movie, but just a fun movie that needs to be seen on the biggest screen possible, particularly in an IMAX screen, which is what I did, and I'm giving Godzilla vs. Kong the thumbs up emoji. And yeah, I do agree. This movie was definitely excessive in the property damage and the bystanders within this film. This movie did not give a fuck about what was happening to the human characters. All they cared about was the 2 titans, and when they were fighting in Tokyo, it was like, so I guess there's no human life around. They causing all this destruction. But regardless, it's inconsequential to what I came here for. So, and yeah, I thought at the time the Hollow Earth served no purpose, but again, with the show Monarch, it presents some more ideas that will come into play later, and it definitely came into play with the Monarch TV series. And I don't know what's about to happen with Godzilla x Kong, but it does seem like there is a feature with the MonsterVerse, and I hope there is one after Godzilla x Kong. And like I said, Godzilla vs. Kong gave me exactly what I want, and I had a rip-roaring good time watching. And watching it again 3 years later, this might be my favorite within the franchise. I'm not saying it's the best, but it's the one I like revisiting. And especially with everything they set up, like just with the beginning of the movie where Godzilla, he is attacking Apex, and we don't know why Godzilla is in full villain mode, but it's not until it's reviewed later that Apex, if you remember the end credit scene of Godzilla King of Monsters, they found the head of a King Ghidorah head, and they used that to power the Mecha Godzilla. And of course, Godzilla being able to sense radiation, he senses this, and you don't just do something like that without Godzilla feeling like Franklin at the end of season 5 of Snowfall. Because Godzilla, he is an unsung hero. He's the one keeping balance and making sure these titans stay in their place. And this is how the humans turn on him. But what I also like about this movie is that there's 2 teams. There's Team Godzilla and Team Kong. Team Godzilla consists of the Russell family, continued on from King of the Monsters, in which Millie Bobby Brown and her father, Mark. But Millie Bobby Brown, she goes on a journey with Brian Tyree Henry, who is a conspiracy podcaster, and her friend, I'm blanking on this actor's name, but I just remember him as Fire Fist from Deadpool 2, and they're trying to figure out what Apex is hiding, and it turns out it is Mechagodzilla. And then meanwhile, you have Team Kong, which they're trying to take Kong to the Hollow Earth and guide them so that they can find this energy source so that Apex can power up Mechagodzilla. But Team Kong also consists of Rebecca Hall's character, Alexander Skarsgård's character, and this little deaf girl that they found on Skull Island. And this little deaf girl, she has a personal connection with Kong because she taught him how to do sign language, and so now Kong can speak. And so they do find the Hollow Earth, and Kong finds his roots. And now let's go over each round. The first round was when they were on the ships, and that whole scene in itself was just amazing. Watching Kong just utilize his surroundings and jumping from ship to ship, and Godzilla, he just coming out of nowhere, attacking them. And I'd say that round was a bit of a draw, but it was still fun to watch. Because you know Godzilla and Kong, they have a long rivalry with each other. Round 2 is when they're fighting in Tokyo, and I say that round definitely went to Kong. Because Kong has his little axe, and he was letting Godzilla have him for a minute. But then eventually Godzilla, he was just like, you know what, fuck this, I've had enough. And by round 3, Godzilla just went full primal beast mode. He was letting Kong have it. And then finally, that final fight with Mechagodzilla, in which he is whooping Godzilla's ass. And I just love that, because at that point, that's when, Godzilla, at this point, he's just been a total dick throughout the movie, and he put Kong in his place. But it was nice to see Godzilla, kind of get humbled a little bit. Like, I know you're the king, but stay humble, But luckily, that leads to the team up between Godzilla and Kong, which we are going to see more of in Godzilla X Kong. And it was just cool just to see them two team up to fight Mechagodzilla. Godzilla, he powers up Kong's axe with radiation. When I saw that, I was like, hashtag teamwork. And like I said in my original review, some of the characters are a bit weak, and in context with the Monarch TV series, which that show, it did address where the fuck Apex came from, because it does seem like in this movie, at the time, Apex just came out of nowhere. We didn't know who they are, but luckily, Monarch, they justify that. And hopefully we will see more of Apex in the next movie, and hopefully in whatever the next season of Monarch comes out. Overall, nothing too critical to say about this movie. I mean, you got to know what you're getting yourself into with Godzilla vs. Kong, and it gave me a rip-roaring good time. I love this movie more and more the more I watch it, and the ideas that this movie presents, which is the Hollow Earth and Apex, they do justify that in the Monarch TV series. To me, this movie was a great payoff for the Monsterverse, and hopefully it'll get even better from here. Originally, I gave Godzilla vs. Kong the thumbs up emoji, but I'm gonna bump it up. I'm gonna give Godzilla vs. Kong the hard eyes emoji.